evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. Welcome to 2023. We are back. How are you doing, everybody?
Doing good.
Jason,
No
I like the
complaints
new
here,
microphone rig, man. I like that.
Thanks. Christmas gift from my parents, so get some good sound quality and I can hear you guys a little better with the headphones, so it's going to be a good time.
All right. Joe, how you holding up, bud?
Hey, I'm holding up, man. Hey, yeah, CubsCon this last weekend. That was some exciting stuff going on there, and some good news for diehard Cub fans coming out of the weekend. So hey, I'm doing as best I can. I rode the roller coaster of IU basketball last week, as evidenced by our group chat, and I'm still not sold yet. But hey, you blow out Wisconsin at home by 19, I'll take it.
I'm still to this day, I am shocked that Penn State managed to beat IU because that hardly ever happens.
Okay, I'm just going to say this one time. You hit 18 three-pointers. What do you mean you're shocked?
Well, I'm shocked because let's face it, how often in my history of watching Penn State hoops has that ever happened? Exactly zero times.
I went up to Happy Valley last year to watch them play each other and got to see my team lose again, so I'm used to it.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, so Joe, what are you drinking tonight, bud?
Self-medicating a bit. Upcoming surgery coming up, so I'm doing the Evan Williams Mountain Dew, man.
All right, makes sense. What do you got tonight, Jason?
Yeah, so tonight I have one that I did have the last time we met when I was able to do my Love Actually, what do they call them, cue cards. So I have the Rusty Rail Brewing. It's called Cheat Day. It's a blackberry cobbler sour, and it is phenomenal.
Yeah, I need to pick some of that up. I haven't had a chance to yet. All right, guys. My wife grabbed some beer for me tonight and made an excellent choice. From the great Trogs Brewing Company, we have the Double Blizzard IPA because, as she put it, if it's going to be this cold, it's just freaking snow already. Although that said, we're not going to be having snow-like weather for a little bit because I believe we're going to be in the 40s all week in the middle of January. I got nothing, man. All right, so let's roll into the AL West. Unfortunately, Dave is not able to join us tonight, but he did send along his thoughts for us. Jason will read those when we get down to the Mariners. As with last year, we're going to go worst to first in the division and, take a look and see what we think. So fifth place last year was the Oakland Athletics, to absolutely nobody's surprise, as they sold off anybody who had any slight level of talent for prospects. Their record last year was 60-102. That is a negative 26 win total from the year prior. That's pretty bad. So on the depth chart right now, some names I'm familiar with because Atlanta and Oakland wheel and deal all the time lately. Shea Langoliers at catcher along with Tyler Soderstrom, Seth Brown at first, Dermis Garcia as well, Aladimus Diaz at second, Jace Peterson at third, Nick Allen at short, Connor Capel in outfield along with Estuary Ruiz, Ramon Laureano, Jordan Diaz at DH. Pitching, you have Cole Irvin, Paul Blackburn, Ken Waldichuk, Kyle Mueller, and JP Sears. The closer right now is Domingo Acevedo, and then they also have Zach Jackson, Danny Jimenez, Trevor May, AJ Puk, Tyler Sear. So, guys, my initial thought before we even get to the additions and subtractions, outside of Kyle Mueller and Shea Langoliers, who I know only because they're former Braves prospects that were traded to Oakland, Jesus, I don't know anybody on this roster. And for that reason and that reason alone, we're going to call Oakland the all-potential team. If this potential group of high-ranking prospects can, settle in at a major league level and do really well, it could be a great team eventually. It's not going to be that this year. I'm not seeing that one damn bit. Looking at some of the moves they made, it's the same as last year. They traded away Sean Murphy to Atlanta. They got back Kyle Mueller, Freddie Tarnok, Royber Salinas, and Manny Pena, who was then flipped to Milwaukee as part of that three-team trade. And then they also picked up Estuary Ruiz from Milwaukee as well. They didn't lose a lot of guys, but they didn't have a lot of guys to lose. They also lost their old backup catcher, Stephen Vogt, who I believe retired, and Chad Pinder as well. And then otherwise, it's just been minor leaguer trades and waiver pickups. Yanni Hernandez, Brent Rooker. Oakland is clearly not playing to win this year. I think that is abundantly clear. But they are stocking up for the future. And, like I said, if these guys start to progress, next 3 to 4 years, maybe Oakland could be a serious contender. I think, the biggest thing for them right now is the biggest piece in the trade that we made with them from Matt Olson last year, which is Shea Langoliers. Langoliers has a huge arm. He's a phenomenal catcher, and he seems, from what I've read online, he was doing a good job adjusting to the major league staff last year. So, kind of like what we're going to talk about with Baltimore in a few weeks. If you get a young guy in there and he can handle a major league staff right away, that is going to be huge. So, I think he's probably the biggest key at this point for what Oakland is going to be doing moving forward. But honestly, guys, I'm not seeing a whole lot of movement, and I do not expect Oakland to move out of the basement this year. What do you think?
No, not at all. They lost their big players, especially Sean Murphy, which, it's something that they clearly wanted to do to try and build up a little more, because Murphy wasn't going to stay with them for a long time. The names that I do like in here would be Tyler Soderstrom, AJ Puck. It would be a good relief pitcher here, and Ramon Laureano in the outfield. I think they're going to be the ones to kind of keep an eye on. But yeah, they're not getting out of the basement. They're going to be last in that division.
Yeah. Joe, what do you think?
Look, let's be honest here. They could have signed Mike Trout in the offseason. It would have made a hill of beans of difference in this town. They could have had Mike Trout signed in the offseason. They could have had Shohei in the farm system, and they still would not have hope. They're going to be in the basement. I mean, if you're not going to invest in a product, they're not going to get any better. They're just not. I mean, as much as I complained about my team and lack of investment early on in free agency, this team doesn't invest in itself. And if you're not going to invest in yourself, you're not going to get better. Yeah.
Joe, what are you thinking for a win total this year? I mean, they were at 60 last year. Do you think they're going to crack 60 this year? We know expectations are going to be garbage, so let's just keep it low to start with. Do you think they'll crack 60?
No, I don't. Your best offensive player is gone. Your best defensive player is gone in Murphy. I mean, come on, really?
Yeah, it's tough to give up a guy who's a Gold Glove caliber catcher.
I mean, you could have Roy Hobbs come out of retirement and it wouldn't make a difference. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, teams like Oakland and Pittsburgh. This is why we need a salary minimum. I don't really care about the top of the CBT. I care more about we need a minimum to make sure these small market teams aren't just taking their shared revenue check and running with it, because what's Oakland's payroll going to be?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, you've got guys on some of our teams and other teams that are going to make more money this year by themselves than the entire payroll of the Oakland A's, the entire payroll of Pittsburgh, maybe. I mean, really? This is what you're going to spend your money with?
It's pretty bad. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to take them at like 57 wins, I think. They're not cracking 60 with getting worse.
Yeah, I think I'm going to put them at about – I don't like to go this low, but I think I'm going to go 55. I do not see – I don't see the wins, man. So, yeah, I think we're all in agreement Oakland will remain fifth for the time being. Yeah, okay. I'm just pulling it up here. Give me 1 second. His payroll. I am just curious how much how much they actually have on the books for this year already. I'm assuming isn't much. Yeah, their highest player is going to be Trevor May at $7 million. Like, they are so far below the luxury tax, it's not even funny. Yeah, their active payroll right now is 37.9.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's awful.
I mean, the biggest remaining need in this team, this question should be switched to, what don't they need?
Yeah, exactly.
The way that they run this, it's terrible.
A catcher. That's the only thing they don't need is a catcher. Everything else is pretty much up for grabs. Looks like Ronnie has joined us tonight. Ronnie, I'm assuming you probably feel about the same we do. Oakland's going nowhere and pretty much needs just about everything to make a roster. So, Ronnie, feel free to chime in anytime in the night. Let us know your thoughts. We'll read them out loud. All right, so let's, since there's really not a whole hell of a lot going on in Oakland for the foreseeable future, Jason, let's move it on to the Rangers.
Yeah, so we'll take a look here at the Rangers. They ended up last year with a 68-94 record, ended up fourth in the AL West. So their change, they actually gained 8 wins last year. Their depth chart, infield, you have catcher Jonah Heim, Mitch Garver, first base Nathaniel Lowe, second base Marcus Semien, third base Josh Young, and shortstop Corey Seager. Outfield, you have Josh Smith, Leody Taveras, and Bubba Thompson. That's a good name.
That's a great name.
DH, and you have Adolis Garcia. And then your starting pitchers, this is a really good rotation. Jacob deGrom, Andrew Heaney, John Gray, Nathan Eovaldi, and Martin Perez. Your relievers, you have your Jose Leclerc, Jonathan Hernandez, Joe Barlow, Brock Burke, John King, and Yeri Rodriguez. They did not re-sign anybody, but they made big splashes in the offseason here. They got Jake Odorizzi in a trade with Atlanta. They got Jacob deGrom for 5 years, $185 million, with a mutual option for a 6th year, which would be $37 million more. Andrew Heaney, 1 year, $12 million. $13 million player option for 2024, $500,000 buyout. But that value can increase depending on his health and his innings pitched. They also got Nick Mears and Nathan Eovaldi, which that was a big get for them. And they also got Mitch Garver in for 1 year. Their losses are not terrible. They did lose Arihara, Calhoun, Culberson, Matt Moore, which that's no loss whatsoever for them. Maybe he'll find his way to the north side of Chicago. They also lost Martin Perez, Plawecki, Colby Allard in a trade with Atlanta, and then Nick Solak, who they traded to the Reds for cash, and they also traded Dennis Santana for cash. So I think overall the Rangers got better.
Yeah, and Odorizzi, actually, I was surprised that he wasn't listed in their starting depth chart. But here's the thing. Eovaldi was the more recent signing. So I'm thinking Odorizzi was supposed to be like the number 5 guy, got bumped because of the Eovaldi signing. But as we know, neither Eovaldi or Andrew Heaney are exactly known to be durable. So I think Odorizzi they'll either run a 6-man rotation to give all these guys extra rest, especially deGrom.
Yeah.
Or, Odorizzi is going to be the long man out of the bullpen, and we'll be making spot starts as guys get hurt because deGrom, Heaney, Eovaldi, not exactly a durable rotation the last few years, to say the least. Definitely things are getting exciting in Texas. This is potentially a pretty decent team. Problem is the top 2 teams in the division are extremely good.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to be looking at, you're almost looking at the AL West trying to be like the NL East, but the number 3 team is just not at the level of the top 2 teams. Whereas in the NL East, the top 3 teams are all juggernauts. So they're getting there. I love the moves the Rangers made. To be honest, I don't even think the deGrom deal. I went back and forth on this. I don't think it's as crazy of a deal as I thought it was initially. I thought he was going to break 200 mil on the contract. So I think to stay under 200 mil and get 5 years out of it, pretty damn good deal. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I mean they're a much improved team. That's no question here. I mean, it's a much better rotation. I mean, they were the team that spent a crap ton of money the last offseason and didn't really have much to show for it. And now you have those pieces plus the pitching pieces. So I think there's potential for them to be better. But I do think, like you said, the NL East, it's three powerful teams, and this is two powerful teams and a team that's almost there but not quite.
Yeah, I do think that they may end up jumping the Angels this coming season. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that with them making the improvements that they have, I'm going to take them third in the AL West, and I'm going to give them. I think I definitely want to go into the 70s here. Where were they at just recently? 68. I'm going to go 75 wins.
75. Okay. I'm actually typing these down this year so we can later in the year say, hey, we were right. Or, oh my God.
Or we were really, really off.
How many beers did I have at that point in the night when I made that prediction? Joe, what's your prediction?
Yeah, I'd say somewhere around that. What I guess the Angels had 73 last year. That would probably be what I expect the Rangers to do. I think between those pitchers, I think they're worth at least that much.
Yeah, especially if they stay healthy. And that's what makes the Rangers so hard to predict. Yeah, if they stay healthy, that is one of the best rotations in the American League, without a doubt.
Yeah. And one of their biggest remaining needs here, they do need more bats. I think their pitching is actually not terrible. So I would say that what they really need are some bats.
Yeah. And here's the thing. They've got depth now that they can deal some of those guys for a mid, or above average bat, whatever they need. Definitely not a position of strength that they were used to dealing from, as we've seen in the past with the Rangers. For me, I think I'm going to go 79 wins. And I think that it's a possibility that they will be able to sneak into the last wild card next year for the American League.
Okay.
I'm not saying definite, but from what I see, it's definitely a possibility. Yeah. Hey, Karen's joined the chat. How you doing, Karen? All right. So, do you have anything else for the Rangers?
I do not.
Okay. The only thing I'm going to say is I hope Colby Allard turns out to be better than he was when we traded him to the Rangers the first time. All right, Joe, let's move on. How about the Angels?
Yeah, the Angels last year, their record 73-89, third in the AL West. Their record change from 2021 was they lost 4 wins from their total, which kind of shocked you given the fact that Mike Trout was actually healthy for a majority of the year. Finally.
Right.
Is crazy. But their depth chart looks like this. At catcher, they've got Max Stassi and they've got Logan Ohape at catcher. They've got Gino Urshela at first, Drury at second, Anthony Rendon at third, and Luis Rengifo at short. In the outfield, Taylor Ward, Mike Trout, Hunter Renfroe, who is, with the Brewers, I was kind of seeing him a ton. So I like what he can bring, and that's a good move for them, I think, to improve the outfield. Shohei at DH, obviously. Shohei as starter. Tyler Anderson, Sandoval, Detmers, and Jose Suarez. Their bullpen, Carlos Estevez, Jimmy Herget, Ryan Tepera, who, again, North Side guy. So watching him in action was quite a bit of fun. So he could be a really good piece for them. Aaron Loop, Jose Quijada, and Jamie Barria. So I think, that could be a good, interesting – what they have at least is not bad. They didn't resign anybody. New acquisitions, Urshela, who we already mentioned, Hunter Renfroe, Carlos Estevez, Justin Garza, and Brandon Drury, and those are guys we already talked about, but they're improved over last year, but I don't know how improved or how much it shows up. If Rendon could stay healthy, that's another big question mark because they had Trout healthy, but they didn't have Rendon healthy for most of last year, if I'm not mistaken. So
Rendon hasn't been healthy since he was with the Nationals.
Yeah.
that's fair.
98 games last year. No, I'm sorry. He played 47 games last year. 58 in 2021, 52 and okay, he was healthy in 2020. He played 52 of 60. And then you'd have to go back to his last year with Washington was the last time he was really healthy for a full season when he played 146 games.
Yeah. I mean, so losses wise, most of their free agent losses were pitchers, all right-handed except for one left-handed pitcher, and then Matt Duffy and Kurt Suzuki. Kurt Suzuki is probably the biggest loss of that bunch, maybe. You might have thoughts on, huh?
Did Suzuki retire, or is
I
he
don't
still?
know.
Let me look.
Either retired or it hasn't been signed yet, which would surprise me. But
he's still unsigned.
Yeah, Archie Bradley was he's a former Phil, is he not?
Yeah, he pitched for the Phils in 2021. Did
Yeah.
I mean, that was your bullpen in 2021, to be fair.
Yeah.
Night and day right now.
It truly.
So I don't know that they really did enough to get better. I don't know that they're going to be worse, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're going to, obviously be that third team that we're talking about in this division, but I think they're going to be in a fight with the Rangers for that third spot.
Yeah. And speaking of the Rangers, Ronnie did comment, and he does not believe that the Rangers will make the playoffs. He believes they will miss the playoffs. So perhaps Ronnie is thinking that it will be the Angels that hold on to the third spot next year. So, Joe, what are you thinking win-wise for the Angels next year or this upcoming year?
I'd say they're somewhere between 70 and 73. They had 73 last year, so I'm gonna say 71.
Okay, Jason.
I'm gonna go. I think they're gonna be a little worse. I'm gonna go. Why not? 69 wins.
I knew it. What a nice total to guess, Jason. How nice. Sadly, that very well could be correct. I'm looking at the changes they've made. They already dropped 4 wins from last year, or from 21 to 22, and they've lost a lot of pieces. Like their closer is gone. Their closer is going to be closing in Atlanta this year. Mike Trout's always going to be a big bat in the lineup. Shohei is always going to be a big bat in the lineup. Renfroe, I think, was a good pickup. I don't think they gave up a whole lot to get Renfroe. I think Alejandro Hidalgo, I believe. Yeah, that's all they had to give up to get him. So, I'm going to put him at 70. I'm not. I don't see this 70, and I'm going to say fourth place. I don't see this team picking up wins, especially with how good the Mariners are, how good the Astros are. I just don't see it happening. Well, Karen, if you remember back to our 69th episode, we made quite a few 69 big bet jokes then, and we're just going to keep rolling with it because, damn it, they're funny. Anyway, so guys, anything else for the Angels?
I mean, as long as the pitchers handle the balls properly, and
there's somebody in the back doing this, harkening back to a wonderful 90s era movie. Yeah, I don't see that happening. All right, so since Dave's not here to join us, unfortunately, he sent all of his notes over to Jason, so we will get the thoughts from the man himself, because let's face it, Dave knows more about the Mariners than the three of us put together. So, Jason, take it away.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so the Seattle Mariners last year, 90 and 72, second in the AL West. They got the second wild card, and they got swept by the Astros in the ALDS, 3-0. They actually had the exact same record from 2022 as they did in 2021.
And
So
the same
pretty-
position in the division, too.
Yeah, only this year they were able to get the wild card out of that. So their depth chart, they have in the infield, they have catcher Cal Raleigh and Tom Murphy. First base, Ty France. Third base, Eugenio Suarez. Shortstop, J.P. Crawford. Outfield, Dylan Moore. Julio Rodriguez, the reigning AL Rookie of the Year. And Jared Kelenic. DH, Teoscar Hernandez. And your pitchers, Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Robbie Ray, and Marco Gonzalez. And in their pen, they have Paul Sewald and Andres Munoz, Diego Castillo, Penn Murphy, Trevor Gott, and Matthew Festa. They did not re-sign any players. They do have a few changes here for their roster, though. They did get Gabe Spire from Kansas City off of waivers and AJ Pollock in the outfield there for 1 year, $7 million. Teoscar Hernandez they got from Toronto in a trade. They also got Cooper Hummel from Arizona in a trade. They also had infielder Colton Wong for a cash trade from Milwaukee. Justin Topa as well from Milwaukee. Their losses, pitcher Matt Boyd, catcher Kurt Casale, second baseman Mitch Haniger, and first baseman Carlos Santana. Pitchers, Eric Swanson, Adam Macko traded to Toronto, Kyle Lewis traded to Arizona, and Jesse Winker and Abraham Toro traded to Milwaukee. They also lost Francisco Tostado, who was traded to the Nationals for cash, and Joseph Hernandez, who was traded to Milwaukee. So some big changes there, especially with Kyle Lewis and Jesse Winkert, Abraham Toro. To me, those are solid losses, especially the Kyle Lewis. Losing Kyle Lewis is a bit tough. But from Dave's perspective here, his general thoughts here, he thinks they're going to go get 90 to 92 wins, and he's going to take them as the division winner because, of course, he is. So cheers. And he's also going they need a big bat yet. They do have a solid defense. They could shore that up a little bit, though. Dave's thoughts are the experience from last year will actually help the Mariners. And the reason he's taking them first in the division is the Mariners actually had a better record than the Astros after that early season catastrophe. Like they had a terrible start to the season and then really turned it on. So that's why Dave's taken them at 90 to 92 wins and winning the division.
And I forgot to put it on the sheet, Jason. This is my bad. They have Colton Wong listed as the starting second baseman at this point for the depth chart.
Okay.
So already have him plugged in there. Yeah, the Mariners are definitely that's a solid squad, man. First of all, the Teoscar Hernandez trade, I think they absolutely scalped Toronto. All they had to give up was Eric Swanson and Adam Macko.
Yeah.
Yeah, I make that deal every single time if I'm Seattle's GM. If that's all you want for Teoscar Hernandez, yes, please. I think that was one of the most lopsided trades of the offseason so far, for being completely honest. Toronto's going to be regretting that one, I think, for years to come. So I like what they did. You know, they didn't need to do a lot. This was already a damn good team. They just needed to shore a couple things up, and I think they did that. You know, the one thing that really strikes me, guys, is that former Cy Young winner Robbie Ray, who was the ace last year, with all the guys that they have now, Robbie Ray is now listed as fourth on the depth chart. That's deep. You know,
Yeah.
The Rangers have arguably the best rotation in the division because they've got DeGrom heading it up. The Mariners are not far behind that, and Houston's rotation really isn't that far behind it either. But I'm really, really impressed with what Seattle has been quietly building up to, you know, hiding out there in the upper northwest corner of the United States, just biding their time, getting all these good prospects and getting them up. And Joe sent us the pick one guy to put on your roster for the rest of their career. And Jason, I think you and I both said almost instantly we would want J-Rod, because the dude is just that good. He's that dynamic. And let's face it, if you're taking a guy for the rest of their career, you take an everyday player over a pitcher because you get a lot more impact out of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing with the Mariners here too is you mentioned their farm system. Their farm system is deep, especially when you look at the pitchers. There's another name in the system that you may see this year, and that's Emerson Hancock. Keep an eye on him potentially, especially depending on the health of the starters that they currently have. But yeah, Mariners are going to be solid. I could see them doing exactly what Dave said. I'm gonna go a little higher. I'm gonna go with 95 wins and taking the division.
95 and the division. Okay, Joe, what are your thoughts, man?
Oh, jeez. Look, I think 95 is pretty close to where they're going to be. I would agree with Jason on that. I wasn't convinced initially, but I'm agreeing with Dave and Jason. They're going to take this division. They're much more improved than the Astros are. The Astros lost much more, as we'll get to. But I think, honestly, Pollock and Teoscar Hernandez and Colton Wong, that's a plug and play for what you already had. Wong is probably a little bit better offensively, maybe. I don't know. But, I think that's a plug and play almost, at least defensively, as far as I'm concerned. And honestly, I think this is the best division of the three in this division. Best rotation, without a doubt.
It's definitely deep.
It's the most proven too. Like DeGrom makes the Rangers a good rotation, but can we count on DeGrom to make more than 10 starts this year? We don't know that yet.
Yeah. And that's what we said with the Rangers is if they're healthy, if it's going to be a good roster, it's going to be a great rotation, but if they stay healthy is the big question. Jason, I wanted to look at their month-to-month splits quick. If you'll remember last year, they started 11-10, and then May they bottomed out at 10-18, and then after that, they didn't win less than 14 games a month the rest of the way out, ignoring October because they only played 6 games. So in July in particular, they went 18-7. That's a 720 winning percentage. I mean, they were absolutely on fire if you take that 1 month away. Kind of like what you and I are going to talk about in about 2 months when we talk about the NL East, about 2 teams in particular that decided to take the first couple months of the year off and then decided to play baseball.
Yeah.
So it's, Dave knows this team really well. I'm going to trust him on this. I'm going to say 96 plus the division. I'll kick it up just a little notch higher because I'm liking what they're doing out there. I like this roster. I like the moves they've made. And with the organizational depth they have, they will be able to bring in an impact bat or an impact arm if they need it at the trade deadline. Now, maybe they won't, but it's good to have that flexibility if you need it. And one move that we didn't really talk about that I really liked, shipping Jesse Winker off to the Brewers because Jesse Winker, he's a good player, no doubt about it. His bat does not fit in Seattle in that ballpark. Formerly Safeco Field, was it T-Mobile Park or whatever now? I still think it was Safeco. But his bat is that's not the ballpark for him because the left side of that outfield is very, very deep with huge power alleys in left center. So that was never he was just not really a great fit for them because he's a very, very heavy pull hitter. So I think getting rid of him and getting something back from the Brewers, I really think that's going to be one of those trades that we're going to look at it, later in the year next year and say that worked out really well for both teams. Players that needed new scenery.
I mean, that's why Jesse Winker did so well in Cincinnati. That ballpark was better for him to hit in, better for him to play in. T-Mobile Park did not fit his style. So I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah. So so that's what we have for the Mariners, guys. Do you have any other thoughts? All right, Dave. If you think of anything else later, feel free to comment on it, and we will mention it next week before we roll into the NL West. All right, and then and also Dave, one thing. Thank you very much for even though he's going to start in the minors potentially, grab J-Rod, and even if he starts rough, hold on to him. Yeah, he helped anchor my fantasy team last year. Thank you very much for that, sir. All right, guys. So let's move on to the division champs from last year, the Houston Astros. The Astros went 106-56 last year, first in the AL West. They were the World Series champions, defeating the Phillies 4-2 in the World Series. They gained surprise, and this I know none of us predicted last year. They actually gained 11 wins last year. I think we were all thinking like mid-90s, low 90s for them last year. Looking at the depth chart, in the infield catching, you've got Martin Maldonado and Corey Lee. First base, Jose Abreu. Second base, Jose Altuve. Third base, Alex Bregman. Shortstop is Jeremy Pena. In the outfield, Michael Brantley, Chas McCormick, and Kyle Tucker. Yordan Alvarez will continue to DH. Pitching-wise, you have Framber Valdez, Christian Avier, Lance McCullers Jr., Luis Garcia, and Jose Urquidy at the rotation. On the back end, you've got Ryan Presley closing still, which is still a good thing to have. Rafael Montero, Hector Neris, who they will continue to not use as a closer, and he will be successful. Brian Abreu, Ryan Stanek, and Seth Martinez. Not a whole lot going on for the Astros signing-wise. They did re-sign Rafael Montero 3 years, $34.5. They re-signed Michael Brantley 1 year, $12 million. An interesting pickup, and I think this is a terrible move. Jose Abreu, 3 years, $58.5 million. I don't mind signing Jose Abreu. I think signing a guy who's 38 years old to a 3-year contract worth $58.5 million is utterly insane. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
I'm just glad that my team didn't pull the trigger on that deal. And then the first baseman that they did the other day, because the guy has not been himself for the last 2-3 years. This is ridiculous. Why would you give him that kind of money?
Yeah, that's nuts. Honestly nuts. Some depth moves. Rylan Bannon waivers pickup from the Cubbies, and Bly Madras was traded from Detroit for cash. They lost Jason Castro, Alametis Diaz, Yuli Gurriel. They lost Trey Mancini to the Cubs, Joe. Will Smith, because good God, that guy is toast. He's got nothing left. Christian Vasquez, Justin Verlander to the Mets, Josh James. So let's get the elephant in the punch bowl kind of thing out of the way. Will they become the first team since the Yankees in the 90s to repeat as World Series champions? I'm going to go with absolutely not.
No.
Yeah. All right. Now that we got that out of the way, I just don't see it. This is still a good team. It's still a solid roster. They've had losses, and I don't think the additions they have made will counteract the losses. Now, I have to say, losing Verlander, I'm not really worried about that. They still have a really good rotation, even without Verlander. So I don't think they significantly dropped. And let's face it, Verlander is going to get hurt again this year, proving the point with whoever the hell I was arguing with on the Earnestly Speaking Network a few weeks ago when he said, if Scherzer and Verlander get hurt. I'm like, no, dude, it's when. You got a guy who's 38, you got a guy who's over 40, both coming off major injuries. It's not if, it's when. So they're not going to win 100 games. They're not even close. I think maybe 88-90 is probably about where I'm going to put them. I expect a very, very major drop in wins next year for the Astros. This team, it's still good. Don't get me wrong. It's still good. They should still be a wild card team. But this team is not the world beater it was this year.
No, I think they'll be the first or at worst the second wild card. I'll probably take them as the first wild card. If I'm taking the Mariners at 95 wins, I'll take them like 93.
Okay, so I said 88-90 wild card. Jason, you said 93 and wild card. Joe?
90. Why not split the difference?
Why not? Wild card, I'm assuming, Joe.
If that, yeah.
All right. So yeah, it's the Astros are not going to be a bad team by any means, but they're definitely not going to be the world beaters again.
But I
Definitely
think what you said is key here, Andrew. Their gains don't outweigh the losses here.
Yeah.
I think when we just talked about the Mariners, their gains are better than their losses overall. I would say. You could argue, per player for player maybe there, but I think you're in Seattle your gains are better than your losses. In Houston, they are definitely not.
Well, and I think the biggest loss is Yuli Gurriel. Losing Yuli Gurriel and replacing him with Jose Abreu. I'm not liking that personally. I don't think anybody should. And and here's the thing: I like Jose Abreu. He's a good player, and he wasn't terrible last year. He still hit 304, but his power was gone. I mean, he's turned into a contact hitter. He does not have the power he used to have. But he's going into his age 36 season. Sorry, not 38, 36. And you are paying him a ridiculous amount, $19.5 million a year. He's not going to get better from here. And I mean, maybe the power will get better with those quirky dimensions at Minute Maid Park, but
It seems to me like they're banking on a change of scenery here, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, you may not have a manager who's going to tell you to take a day or two off, even while you're still playing. So, you might not have that going on. So maybe he'll be a little better. I don't know, but I don't see him worth the money, and I don't see him, footing the difference there with Gurriel and Mancini. I don't think so.
No, and granted, Mancini did not do much for the Astros. He did not hit very well after he was traded from the Orioles, but he still did get them to a World Series win, and he was a big depth piece for them, if nothing else, that they were hoping they could re-sign for this year because he can play the corner outfields, he can play first base, and he could also DH. So there was a lot of flexibility with Mancini that Joe is just so happy to pick up.
Damn right I am. You're damn right I am.
And at a reasonable deal, too. I actually thought that was one of the better deals signed this offseason.
Yeah, really.
But we're jumping ahead of ourselves. We won't get into that tonight. So, yeah, I'm not sold on the Astros. They're definitely not repeat. If they repeat next year, a whole lot of stuff went really horribly wrong in the playoffs to make that happen because this team is, as it's built right now, is not good enough to repeat.
The thing that they'll have though is they'll have that experience.
Yeah.
Experience is key, and a lot of it may depend on how they're playing at that time. Because again, they got hot and they ran the table.
Yeah, all except for 2 games.
Yep, they didn't lose until the World Series.
Yeah, which that is literally
even then they didn't even lose the World Series. They just lost 2 games. So.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah, at least you guys got 2 off them. At least
I'm excited for that recap in a couple of months where I get to see Philadelphia Phillies with the 87 wins, 3rd wild card, and then National League champions. I'll be excited to see that.
It won't sit well. Yeah, I guess I will have to put that on there, but
yes,
but
you will. I will make sure you do that.
Well, it doesn't matter if I don't put it down. You're going to say it anyway.
But you got to put it in writing.
Yeah, well, anyway.
In the words of Kevin Bacon, these are the facts and they're undisputable.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? All right, guys. So for 3 guys based in Pennsylvania who really don't get to pay that much attention to the West, that's our look at the AL West. I do feel like, we have a decent enough handle on it. And thank God for Dave saving us the Mariners because he really does know the Mariners so well. And his insight is just wonderful on them. So, guys, do you have any other thoughts on the AL West? I think it's going to be a fun race to watch. It's going to be a 3-team race, though, which is realistically a 2-team race between the Mariners and the Astros.
Yeah, it's going to be more of a 2-team race than a 3-team race. Pulling for the Mariners.
Yeah, definitely. They are due to get back and win a division. It's been a very long time for them. And, maybe Oakland will not get the first round pick next year. The first overall pick. We'll have to see, because the Nationals are not looking really any better than they are. So that will be the race to the basement we will be keeping an eye on next year, or this season, excuse me. It is 23. It's not next year anymore. It's this year. The big three I have right now that I'm watching for the race for the number one overall pick right now is probably Oakland, Kansas City, and Washington. I would think are probably the three worst, although Pittsburgh will probably find its way in there as they often do.
I don't think so. I know we'll be talking about them in a few weeks, but they have made some good moves this offseason.
Yeah, that's true. I haven't fully looked at them yet, so I will trust you guys on that one. But then again, it is also the Pirates, and the injury bug always does seem to hit them pretty hard too. So we'll have to see. All right, guys. So that is our AL West preview for 2023. We will be back in 2 weeks when we will be previewing the NL West. If you are a fan of any of the NL West teams and you would like to join us, please shoot us a message either through Facebook Messenger, Twitter Messenger, or just, post on the wall and shout, say, hey, I'd like to be on. We will be happy to have you on. Just let us know what team, and we'd love to have you on, get your perspective. If you're camera shy and you don't want to be, talking live with other people, that's okay too. Write down your thoughts, send them to us. We will be happy to read them on air. So, we have an idea, again, we are three guys based on the East Coast. We do not follow the West Coast as much as we should. So we would love to have a perspective of somebody who actually lives out there or follows those teams regularly. So please, if you would like to be part of the show, let us know, and we will be happy to either get you on or read your statement.
Yeah, and we don't even need to have just one person from one team. If there's multiple people out there for different teams, let's get a whole roundtable going.
Let's put this in perspective. When we get to the NL East in March 20th, I believe is the date for that. We were going to have at least one. Well, we might have one other Braves fan if Coach Lytle is available. I know Ronnie's going to be on.
We'll have at least another Mets fan or two.
Yeah, two, I believe. Did Todd confirm yet?
Yeah, he's down for it.
Yeah, and I know Logan. So we're going to have at least two Mets fans on.
We'll have a Cards fan joining us for the NL Central to go with Joe and I'm assuming Alex.
Yes, Alex. I just talked to him this weekend. Alex will be on with us to give Joe some moral support in the Cubbies corner. Let's face it.
The more rivals we have, the better.
You see, that's what I like. And, now that Mr. Contreras has left Chicago for St. Louis, it should get a little spicy in a couple weeks.
I'm excited for that.
Nick.
And let's remember, too, little Contreras is now in Milwaukee. So the whole Contreras clan is now in the NL Central. So So if there are any Brewers fans out there that want to hop on for the NL Central, please let us know, because Jason and I would be happy to just kick back, pop some beers, and watch the fireworks go. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. So you can find audio recordings wherever you find them. So Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, all the usuals. You can see us live on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitter. Merchandise is at redbubble.com/people/DDAB-podcast. That was terrible. I'm sorry. Follow us on the Facebook page, facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer, on the Twitter page at DDAB_podcast. All three of us are on Twitter as well. I'm at PyroLord314. Jason's at JRicker300. Joe's at JoltonJoe35. We are presented by Dark Arrow Podcast, LLC, and sponsored by the amazing, phenomenal Whiskey and Blade Barbershop in Lidditz. As you can tell, I'm badly overdue for a haircut and a shave, especially after painting in the pump house today. I had to scrub pretty hard to make sure I was not covered in paint for this episode tonight, guys. Folks, may your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. Have a good night. We will see you in 2 weeks for the NL West.